Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to call the Social Services and Housing Committee to order. Does anybody have a pecuniary interest? And so, number 2 of the action items. And the first one is concerns the speech and language service agreement with the Thames Valley Children's Centre. And so I'll let Christine go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, we are recommending that we present the revised service agreement for speech and language services that's attached, and that we enter into a service agreement for speech and language services with Thames Valley Children's Centre. And we're moving that service from Grey Bruce Public Health, who is moving out of that type of delivery. It will be a nice shift for the families and children that are receiving the services, as Thames Valley Children delivers a number of services that are in that kind of menu of special needs services. And I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Does anybody have any questions? So seeing none, you have the recommendation that approval be granted for the revised service agreement for speech and language services, and that the County of Bruce enter into a service agreement for speech and language services effective July 7th, 2016 with Thames Valley Children's Centre. And that the bylaw with regard to the former service agreement with Grey Bruce Health Unit be repealed, and that a bylaw be introduced for speech and language services with Thames Valley. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Mike, second by Robert. All in favor? None opposed, that carried. And next is the Ontario Transfer Payment Agreement for social housing with through the SHEEP program. I think I've got that right, SHEEP.
Correct. Thank you. Through you, Chair. We do have a recommendation before you that the Chair of the committee, as well as myself, the Director, be authorized to sign that transfer payment agreement with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for the Social Housing Electricity and Efficiency Program, or SHEEP program. And happy to take any questions if you have any.
Are there any questions? And so you have the recommendation before you regarding this. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by David, second by Milt. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That carried. And next we have the investment in affordable housing.
Okay, so through you, Chair, staff are making a recommendation that committee approve us moving forward with a submission to the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing for approval and funding of the IAH extension program for the applicant Russell Meadows. And so you may recall that we had a staff panel that reviewed the EOI expressions that came in, and Russell Meadows scored quite well. Out of a possible 95 points, they had 84.75. And so we did have staff from the planning division as well as corporate services involved in that panel of review. And I'm happy to take any other questions. Oh, sorry, I should highlight that their ask, we don't have sufficient funds in this budget year under IAH, but it is a widespread practice that the ministry has been allowing swapping of funds, and so that is part of our process moving forward, that we would ask for that swap of funds so that Russell Meadows could complete their full project as they entered as a business case. And happy to take any questions.
Does anybody have any questions on this? I'm better informed than this. It's just down the street from where I live. And so I think it'll fit very nicely into their existing. So you have the recommendation there about the expression of interest from Russell Meadows in Kincardine be recommended for approval. Moved by Mitch, second by Paul. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That carried. Good. I'm scrolling here today, so because of I can't get into my content, but the next one are the information items, 3. And 3A is the Westario Low Energy Assistance Program Emergency Financial Assistance, or with regards to LEAP. So I'll turn it over.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, we did distribute $22,500 in the first 4 months of 2016 to residents in Bruce, Grey, Huron, and Wellington counties. And you'll see that the distribution is that primarily 69% was in Bruce County, followed by 18% of those applications in Grey County, Huron County at 11%, and Wellington County at 2%. And staff were able to bring this program in-house and do quite well with the distribution. It was a busy time, but we're very happy to report that the funds did last until basically the end of the cold winter months.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions on the report? Yes.
Thanks. This is the first year we've done this, correct, when they made that. So just to kind of put it into perspective, the money ran out, so there was still a way bigger need than was money available?
That's a good question. We were receiving other applications and will continue to do so. You may recall that under our CHIPPY Community Homelessness Prevention Initiative program, we're able to distribute utility funds through that program as well too. So there's an order in which we proceed with these funds, the LEAP funds being utilized first, but we still do have CHIPPY funds available to distribute where people fit the eligibility criteria for that program.
Just for clarity, is there anybody that really requested assistance for this type of and we didn't have the money to give it to them?
There will be some because they don't fit the sustainability clause. So for example, if someone has $5,000 in arrears, us flowing the limited amount that we're able to flow will not keep their electricity on. And so when they don't fit a sustainability clause with a plan that can work that out, then they are denied. I don't know those numbers offhand, but certainly we could report back on those.
I think it would be interesting just to know if it's just a small number or if it's a bigger number, just in comparison. But I think that's one of the good things of having the county coordinated because of your familiarity with that CHIPPY program and where it fits in. I think it's more efficient myself, unless somebody else has a comment. Yes, David.
Certainly, as far as Westario is concerned, there were fewer numbers of disconnects because of this program. So it worked very well. There were a number of initiatives started to disconnect, but because of the funding that was available, they were helped.
Well, that's good. So again, the report is for information, and the next one then is on the report on the first quarter 2016 homelessness prevention and the statistics in the report. So if you want to speak to them.
Sure. So Tanya has provided here for you some more information on the CHIPPY program. And so under the homelessness prevention program, we are flowing money to the YMCA to provide services and supports for vulnerable and at-risk residents. And so 35% of the residents that YMCA were providing support to are homeless, and 65% of the ones that they've been serving at this time period are at risk of being homeless. And so there is some information broken down there explaining the types of assistance that are being received. So when we're talking about homelessness to emergency shelter, that might be a situation where someone was couch surfing. You know, they had no permanent place to be, and they may have moved into a short-term hotel arrangement or transitional shelter, depending on their situation. And then you do see that there is some work where they're moving people in emergency shelter onto transitional and onto long-term housing as well too. So this just represents the first quarter of 2016. And again, happy to take any questions if you do have any.
Does anybody have any questions? I just have one. As the homelessness initiatives and everything, it remains pretty constant, or is it just increasing a bit in our area on the whole?
It's difficult for us, given that in Bruce County in particular, as other rural areas, that it's a hidden homelessness. So until we do things like point-in-time counts, where we actually have the staff that are on the ground in the various different programs, such as Salvation Army or the Y, asking particular questions at a point in time, it's hard for us to know on a day-to-day basis if that number is changing or not. What we do know more regularly is, of course, our wait list situation, which remains at about 300 households that are on the wait list. But the homelessness piece is a much harder piece to quantify on a regular basis.
I'm just interested in, so the reason is the homeless people will all of a sudden not be homeless technically for a little while, and
so under the definition, someone who's going from friend's house to friend's house would be considered homeless. But it's hard to capture and count them, right? Because we have a large geographical area. So how do you know exactly how many people are doing that at any given time in the county? It's not the same as in an urban situation where they know there's X number of people sleeping in the shelter system each night. So in any of the rural areas, it becomes much more difficult. And that's where we tend to do kind of like a point-in-time count, and over a period of a few weeks might look at what are the numbers that we have during that period of time. So the next time that we do an exercise like that, we will be able to compare it to the last time that we did that when we were developing the long-term housing plan. But it's, again, difficult to quantify on a regular basis.
okay, thanks. And that you do that once a year, say? Or once every couple of years?
We have so far done it once, and that was in conjunction with the writing of the first long-term housing and homelessness plan.
Okay, thanks. So that report was for information, and the next report for information is about the Housing Stability Fund Activity and Expenditures 2015. And again, it's for information, and you could maybe highlight it for us.
Sure. So, and this might be of interest, the question that was posed earlier with regard to LEAP and the denied applications. You'll see that in the Housing Stability Fund, staff have outlined that there was 135 applications denied, or 27%. And again, that situation arises when the plan that they're putting forth is not sustainable. So generally what happens in a situation like that is that staff continue to provide referrals and supports and look at alternate solutions, at which time they might submit a new application to the Housing Stability Fund that would be a sustainable plan. So for example, if someone's rent is $1,000 a month and their income is $600, it's never going to be sustainable. We need to find a different plan than that. And again, happy to answer any questions if you had any.
Does anybody have any more questions or comments? Okay. So that was for information. So unless you have something more to add, our next meeting's July 7th, 2016, and I need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Robert, second by Milt, that we adjourn. All in favor? Any opposed? That carried.